Hello everybody. We're going to go on a bike ride today and I have nobody to ride with, so I'm taking you with me. We're actually going to start here in Nassau. There's a new bike area here that we can park at, and we're going to ride our bike into Lewes, and then we're going to take a 20-mile loop through the state park, down through Rehoboth, and back to Lewes. Enjoy the ride. Okay, here we are at Old World Breads. There's a big parking lot right here. This is a great place to park your vehicle if you're coming from up north of Route 1. And you can park here and get right on the junction of Breakwater Trail. And this is where we're going to begin our ride with today. This is the Georgetown Lewes portion of the trail. This is totally straight through this part. Okay, this is the portion of the trail where we're heading into Lewes. We're getting close to where we cross Savannah Road here. There are these nice kiosks along the way that give you a little bit of a history of the trail as you're riding too. And there's several road crossings. People are getting pretty trained to stop as people are riding, and as we are approaching Lewes here and coming up to the Lewes Library up ahead, this place on the right is a great place to stop for a treat. Here's the place I was just telling you about. It's called The Station on Kings. It's a nice bakery, a cafe, and market. Great places to sit outside and go inside. So check this out as you're riding past this on the trail on Lewes. And now we're approaching the library here in Lewes. This is another place you can stop and check out. And right next to the library is a nice museum, little history museum of the first state, Delaware. So you can check that out on your way too. So right in front of the library is a place if you drive down here to Lewes. It's a big little bike station here you can bring here. There's a parking lot to park your car. And this is where the junction of Breakwater Trail come together with the Georgetown Lewes Trail. So this is a great place to come and park, and you can ride from here and do several different loops. Now we're leaving the parking lot there in front of the library, and we are heading into Lewes now. We're going to go this way and head toward the state park and make the loop around through Rehoboth and come back here. If you're looking for landmarks, the big Lewes water tower is right here. Here's the one portion of the trail that they need a little bridge going over the canal here. You're gonna see in a moment. This is the one place we're gonna actually leave the trail and cut through Lewes and get back on. So right here at this point, if we went to the right, we would take that trail to Rehoboth, but we need to cross this canal. So we are going to go left here on the canal and head into Lewes now. So we're entering the historic district right now, and it's very beautiful along here. And here we're coming into the actual town of Lewes. If you want, there's a place, a really bike-friendly place to park your bikes there. Looks like a lot of stuff's there now. And there's a hotel. So we're going to take a right here over the Canal Bridge in Lewes. So this is the Canal Bridge here in Lewes, and you have to cross this bridge to continue on the trail. It's a really nice view of the little Lewes Harbor here. We're going to be heading down the road here, and we're going to cut into the right and up there in the distance. You can see the Delaware Bay way up in the distance. So after crossing the Canal Bridge, we have these little shops in Lewes. Right up here on the right is where you're going to get back on the trail. So really be watching for this. See this bike trail sign right here ahead? If you miss this, you'll miss the trail. Otherwise, you'll have to ride on roads. It's called American Legion Road. We'll hang a right here. Go down here past the Legion and we'll get back on the trail. And here we are at Lewes's probably favorite tourist site, the water reclamation plant. And right across from that is where we get on the trail here at the end of this American Legion street. So here we go. And we're going to stay to the left here to go out to the state park. But if you see, there is a little extension here off to the right. Out in the distance, see that big Lewes water tank? That's where we just came from. And if there was a bridge across the canal at the end of this little extension, it would be awesome. But there's none yet, so that's why we had to cut in through town. This is really a pretty stretch in through here, through all the pine trees. We're heading toward the entrance of the state park now. The Cape May Lewes Ferry is on our left. Now to our left, here's where the Cape May Lewes Ferry is. It takes you across to Cape May, New Jersey from here. We're just going to continue up the path to the entrance of the state park. And here we are at the entrance of Cape Henlopen State Park. It's one of the most beautiful parks in the state that border the bay and the ocean. As you pass the park office, when you come up here where the entrance is, the trail is going to have a way to go two ways. There's actually a loop in this park that you can just do a small loop within the state park. Today we're just going to want a portion of that, and we're going to head down to Rehoboth and do a much bigger loop. But if you come out to the state park, there's some nice trails around here to ride into. We're just going to go straight here toward the campground. Here's one of the only hills you're going to encounter, since it's so flat down here. This is on one of these big dunes in the park. So we're heading out to these World War II lookout towers. There's several of them in this area. If anybody watching this likes to camp, there's a really nice campground in here for tent camping, RV camping, and there are some cabins down here too that are really nice to stay at. And the trail just runs right along this campground. Here's some of the cabins. Here's another place to make a decision. We're gonna head to the beach, go by the observation tower, or go through the Salt Marsh Spur. They're all nice rides. Today we're just gonna head to the left and go the most common route. But if you take the Salt Marsh Spur, that's kind of nice, and through some more of the woods. Here we go. As you're heading through the state park, consider stopping by Fort Miles. This is like an underground fort that was under one of the dunes. There's beautiful views of the Atlantic Ocean from up here. And look in this direction, we're looking north toward Cape May and the Delaware Bay. Now here's something you got to know. When you're doing this bike loop in the state park, find your way to the Gordon's Pond Trail. That's the one you want. Gordon's Pond is the only trail that's going to take you south out of this park toward Rehoboth. So if you're riding around in the state park and get a little lost, look for Gordon's Pond Trail. Time to take these little side trails. Some of these are really nice. You can cut down through the woods. Make sure your bike tires are thick enough to stay on these little trails, but they're really nice compared to staying on the bigger trails sometimes. Now here's the spot where all these trails come together. The trail that I was just on, coming from the state park, is here, and we're going to be heading down the Gordon's Pond Trail in a minute. But before we go that and head to Rehoboth, make sure you always go out, check out the ocean up here. We're going to go to the dune up here, so make sure you do that on your trip. And the name of the dune is Herring Point. And here we are at the top of Herring Point. As you can see, this is like a popular spot for some surfers to come. I actually believe my son's down there somewhere this morning, surfing. The waves don't look too big today. And this is looking south from Herring Point. That's Rehoboth in the distance. And we're going to be biking around Gordon's Pond, which is way out there in the distance. If you see a little bit of water, that's what we're going to be biking around. And this is one of the coolest features of the park, this Gordon's Pond Trail. It's kind of like being on a boardwalk. It sounds a little like a roller coaster when you're riding your bike on it. But it enabled you to ride across the dunes. So the ocean's out there to our left. We're heading toward Gordon's Pond. People out here this morning looking at the birds. If you're serious about bird watching, there's a lookout here. It tells you all the different birds you can look for, but it's right on the way. Here's the southern view of Gordon's Pond. Now we're leaving the state park. This is Henlopen State Park's southern entrance. The only way to get here is coming through Rehoboth, heading north. North Shores. These are pretty exclusive homes right on the beach. And we're heading right into Rehoboth now. Okay, we're coming into Rehoboth. And here's where you got to make a decision which way you're going to go. We can either go left toward the boardwalk in downtown Rehoboth, straight and go out to the entrance of Rehoboth, or cut right through Henlopen acres that have more shade and hills. After September 15th, you can ride on the boardwalk any time of the day. So we are set to ride. And here we are at the Avenue, right in the center of downtown Rehoboth. Down here where people enter Rehoboth over the canal. This is the only part you got to ride along the street for a little stretch. After you cross the canal, we turn right and we get back on the trail. And here you see a sign for Junction and Breakwater. Turn right at Church Street at the light. As you're coming into West Rehoboth, a lot of people like to stop at Revelation Craft Beer on the way, get a little treat. And up here at this intersection, Hebron Road, you can either go right and stay in the sun and more open, or go to the left and in the trees and shade. And here's the start of the Junction and Breakwater Trail. It's 5.1 miles to Lewes. Here's another scenic overlook on the trail. See the birds out there? After a long stretch through the woods, we break out into a nice neighborhood here in Lewes. We just cut through Hawkseye and the Senators. Don't go to the high school, the trail ends there. We're gonna go to the right and go back to the library where we started. And there in the distance is the Lewes Library. We're almost back, doing the entire loop. They're building a lot of new homes here. And we're back, you did it. We're back to where the library is. And if anybody ever comes down sometime and wants to ride, there is a bike shop right across the street there. Just take care of any bike issues you may have. Thanks for riding with me today. Let me know if you want to ride sometime. Adios.